We're slowing down and embracing hobbies this year, so here are 15 ideas for you to try. Let's get right into it. Okay, so you all know I am embracing hobbies this year. 2024 is the year of the hobby for me, and apparently for a lot of people as well. I've noticed a lot of videos popping up where people are wanting to embrace hobbies this year. I don't know how I aligned with so many people all at the same time, but I am all about it. I am so happy to see it. I think we're all just wanting to focus less on adulting and responsibilities and all of that stuff, and instead focus a little bit more on things that bring us individual joy. I'm going to give you 15 ideas and alternative ideas as well associated with those 15 ideas. You'll see what I'm talking about once I get into it, but I'm going to give you these ideas if you are also in the same boat as me and a bunch of other people. I think you probably are if you clicked on this video. Hobbies are a really great starting point for those who are looking to start their slow living journey. Hobbies take your mind off of responsibilities. That's exactly what I was talking about when it comes to me wanting to embrace hobbies more. And once you take your mind off of that, you can really focus on the hobby that you're doing. And focusing on those hobbies will help you live a little bit more in the moment, right? You're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future, you're not thinking about all of these things that you have to get done. You're only focusing on the hobby, and that helps you live more in the moment. It will help you kind of shift your mindset when it comes to other things outside of hobbies so that you can live more in the moment. And slow living is all about embracing the now, embracing the little things, and also embracing things that bring you individual joy. Hobbies are unique and individual and dependent on what you're interested in. So hobbies obviously are going to prioritize what brings you joy. And once again, that's a huge thing that I talk about when it comes to slow living. I also know that some people struggle with figuring out a hobby for themselves. And at first when I heard this, I kind of saw it floating around on the internet, I thought like, that's kind of strange, but that's because I come from a place where I know exactly what I'm interested in. I know exactly what hobbies I should get into. But when we're adults, we're not really encouraged to think in that way. And so you really forget about all of the things that you were interested when you were younger that you did just for fun. So hopefully this video will help you reinvigorate, rediscover, remember whatever it is that you were initially interested in or are now interested in as an adult, and you can get into some fun hobbies. All right, let's get right into it. The first idea is something that I'm personally interested in, and that is reading. Reading is pretty obvious, self-explanatory. Reading is reading, but some ideas that you can do associated with reading is the activity of discovering your reading preferences. So if you haven't been reading for a very long time and you don't even know what you like, it's going to be fun. It's going to be experimental to figure out what you're interested in. And I think that's just an activity all in itself. But you can also explore bookstores, libraries, your local shops, things like that. You can also get a Kindle if you want and decorate it. I know that's super trendy right now. That's also an activity all in itself. And then you can attend book clubs. You can start a book club. You can go to the library, get yourself a library card, y'all. It's free and you get access to library events. There are so many cool things that libraries do in our local areas. So get yourself a library card. You can also download the Libby app on your phone and get access to free books once you get your library card. So reading, huge fan of that. Another thing I'm a huge fan of is gaming. So gaming can include actual gaming on consoles. I highly recommend the Nintendo Switch because it's kind of like a good accessible console that is not only lightweight, you can sit in bed, you can get cozy and play with it, and the games are really simple and accessible to start playing. Yeah, I think that was my point. You can also just use your computer or your laptop. I think that's extremely accessible instead of having to buy a console at all. And there are so many computer games if you just have a look online, if you have a look on Steam. And speaking of Steam, if you want to splurge a little bit, you can get yourself a Steam Deck. I got one for Ian for Christmas, and I am also obsessed with the Steam Deck because you can play so many games on it. You can access all your computer games on it, so I absolutely love it. It's just one of the coolest things. If you want to go the traditional route, you can also do board games, card games, hands-on games. That turns this into a little bit of a social hobby because of course most of those hands-on games are multiplayer. All the more fun. I love hosting game nights. That becomes like a whole thing. You can have like dinner, you can have the games, and then it just becomes a whole thing. So absolutely love doing the hands-on stuff. The next category is knitting, crocheting, sewing, all of those things that you do with the needle and the thread. That stuff is so cool. I have never tried it myself, but I feel like it's a super rewarding hobby because you get something out of it afterwards. Like you have a product. I don't mean to say the word product, but you get a product afterward, which is really cool. You can make yourself a hat, a scarf, which is so cool. I don't know, something about that is super rewarding to me, even though I've never tried it myself. Maybe one day. But another idea that I'm into is painting. Some mediums that you can go with are acrylic, watercolor, gouache. If you're intimidated by using like a pan of paints, you can do watercolor pens, you can do colored pencils, you can use anything, whatever it is that is most approachable for you. Another idea is baking. Baking is an also super rewarding hobby because you get something out of it and you get something delicious out of it. So highly recommend baking. I was into baking for a really long time, but you can also get into the activity of baking parties. You can attend classes. When I was a teenager, I did like a baking 101 and it was a really fun social thing. You would go into like a classroom and you would bake together with a bunch of other like-minded people. So that was super fun. And then once you bake things and you have something after you bake, you can share it with your loved ones and that becomes like a whole social event as well. And once you get a little bit more comfortable with baking, you can start making your own recipes and you can make your own recipe cards. I think that's super fun and cool. Okay, moving on. I should have said this after painting, but doodling, drawing, and coloring, I think those are all kind of low maintenance and super fun as well. And if you're kind of intimidated to jump right into it and start making your own doodles and pieces, you can get coloring books. There are adult coloring books, a ton of them. And you can also get like paint by sticker books, so you don't even need to do the actual coloring and staying in the lines. There are actual sticker books that help you do that. And you can also do doodling, drawing, and coloring in a bullet journal. So if you want to kind of combine the activity of creating a bullet journal and doodling slash a little bit of artsy stuff, that is a perfect combination there. Bullet journaling is perfect for doodling. We can just look at Amanda Rachel Lee for that as an example. The next thing are puzzles. Puzzles, I used to be into puzzles, but once you get into doing puzzles, I feel like it's a little bit addictive. It's very rewarding as well. So that's a real good one if you want to just jump into something and kind of be fully immersed into it. Another idea is scrapbooking, similar to bullet journaling, but there's no planning involved in it. Bullet journals are usually associated with like planners, but scrapbooking is just scrapbooking. Another idea is body movement. So I'll give you a bunch of ideas here from low maintenance, low intensity to more higher intensity. We've got yoga, meditation, running, hiking, climbing, dancing, swimming, rollerblading, archery, axe throwing, bowling, workout classes, programs, social events or initiatives, and sports teams. So as you can see, yoga and meditation is very low maintenance, but you can get a little bit higher maintenance, get outdoors, you can get into a class, such as like the dancing classes. You can go to places that are dedicated to certain things, such as the archery and axe throwing, and then you can get into like the social element where you have workout classes, like-minded people are going to these workout classes, so you can make friends there. And social events or initiatives. Sometimes like workout places will have events, and so you can kind of socialize, but you can also discover what's going on in your area when it comes to body movement and that workout center. You can join sports teams if you're an adult. Trust me, just check your local area, you'll be surprised. Okay, moving on, learning something new. I'm a big advocate for learning something new. I constantly want to learn something, and what you can learn are languages, skills, crafts, an instrument. You can also take a digital course. You can take a digital course with a group of people. So you can either do it yourself and you can lead how often you attend the digital course, or you can do one with a group of people so you have each other as kind of accountability buddies, if that makes sense. You can also go to a program, like a physical program at a college or, you know, like a university, and you can do the program with other people, or you can travel. I totally think that if you travel, you're automatically learning. You're learning about the culture, you're learning about the local area. So if you're into traveling, you're definitely going to be learning something new, and I think that is inclusive with hobbies. Another idea is exploring outdoors. So maybe when it gets a little bit warmer, but if you're into the cold seasons, you can totally do this right now, like myself. You can do bird watching, you can visit parks. I know a lot of people like to collect parks. Basically, they go to all of these national parks and then they kind of keep track of it. They have their little tracker, but you can also explore neighborhoods and towns, so it doesn't necessarily need to be nature-based. It can be urban as well. Or you can do camping. Okay, another idea is socializing. I do think that socializing is inclusive with hobbies because you can do themed events, you can do themed dinners, you can do themed parties. And if you're someone who enjoys hosting or attending things where you have a friend or family member who enjoys hosting, then I think that's totally a hobby. Like, hosting is definitely a whole process. So I think it counts when it comes to hobbies. Socializing definitely counts. And also when you do a bunch of these other things, I talked about socializing elements. So I think it counts. The next thing is volunteering. So you can volunteer at an animal shelter, you can foster animals, you can volunteer at a bookstore. I know bookstores always need help in the back end and like all of their stock from experience. Or you can help organizations who need an extra hand. I feel like organizations can always use an extra hand, so why not? Another idea is crafting. So you can do DIYs. Again, another rewarding hobby because you get something out of it. Just look on Pinterest very quickly, very briefly, and you'll find tons of ideas for DIYs, such as jewelry making, sculpting, things like that. And then the last thing that I have here is gardening. I had to throw that in there because I love gardening myself and it's absolutely a hobby. And it does take up more of the year than you would think. I'm doing prep here now in the winter, and you wouldn't think that gardening is associated with winter. So it's definitely a year-long hobby and it's very rewarding as well. Those are all of my ideas. Even though I said there were 15 ideas, I feel like I mentioned a ton more because there's alternative ideas associated with those 15 ideas. So I hope that made sense, but let me know if I mentioned anything that you're interested in starting. I would love to know if something sparked within you here in this list, but also let me know if I mentioned or if I didn't mention something that you're interested in and you are currently partaking in that hobby. This is definitely not an exhaustive list. This is just the stuff that I could think of, including, admittedly, things that I'm personally into. So just let me know in the comments below. I am so excited for 2024 to be the year of the hobby, whether it's a low maintenance hobby or a more intensive, takes up a little bit more of your time type of hobby. Either way, you're focusing on something that brings you joy, and I 100% advocate for that. I just think it is one of the greatest ways to get into slow living. Talking from personal experience, and I am personally going to get into my gaming, my reading, my painting. Those are the 3 things that I'm really dedicated to this year. I don't want to get too overboard. I feel like 3 is already far too many, honestly. I feel like 1 is more than enough. But thank you so much for checking out this video. Happy hobbying. I don't know if that's a word. Remember to have fun. Focus on the fun part because that's what this is all about. And I will talk to you in next week's video.